It's Saturday, February 28th, 2026. And by now, I mean, the notifications on your phone have probably painted the picture for you.
Yeah.
The United States and Israel have launched a coordinated bombardment of Tehran, and Iranian missiles are currently in the air targeting U.S. bases across the region.
It is undeniably a massive geopolitical fracture.
Right. But while the cable news networks are, obsessing over the blast radius and the military strategy.
Which they should be.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
But that's not why we're here today.
No, the military analysis is really for the generals. We are here for the invisible machinery that just ground to a halt, or in some cases, completely spun out of control the exact second those orders were given.
Exactly.
We're looking at the immediate kinetic impact on the global economic engine.
We're talking about the gears grinding between the stock market, the factory floor, and ultimately the purchasing power in your own pocket.
Yeah, the real-world ripple effects.
So to do this, we've pulled a stack of G1 economic reports. These were released literally hours ago, alongside some deep strategic assessments on logistics and industrial automation.
Fresh off the press.
Right. So our mission in this deep dive is to map out the blast radius, not of the actual bombs, but of the economic shockwave.
And it is a shockwave that moves faster than sound. I mean, we are seeing this chaotic mix of immediate financial panic and a much slower, more painful realization that the way we move goods around the planet is, well, it's broken.
Let's start with the speed of that shock, because it's wild to think that a decision made in a war room halfway across the world instantly rewrites the value of the currency in my bank account.
Yeah.
You wake up, you check the markets, and the world is just entirely different.
That is the nature of modern algorithmic trading. The reaction time is zero.
Right.
And what we're seeing right now in the immediate aftermath of these Tehran strikes is the textbook definition of a flight to quality.
A flight to quality. That's the reflex to dump risk, right? Investors see smoke and they just run for the fire exit. But here's the paradox that always gets me. And William Alves, the strategist from Avenue, he points this out in the report. The quality everyone is fleeing to is the U.S. dollar.
It's incredibly ironic, isn't it?
It really is.
I mean, the United States is an active combatant in this conflict right now. Logic might suggest that being at war would weaken your currency.
Because of the massive expenditure and just the general risk.
Right. But in the global financial system, the U.S. dollar isn't just a currency. It's the bunker.
It's that cleanest dirty shirt theory.
Yes.
When the building is shaking, you don't care if the bunker is expensive. You don't even care if the bunker is actively engaged in the fight. You just know it's the only place that won't collapse on top of you.
That's exactly it. It's all about liquidity and depth. Institutional money can't just sit in raw cash. It has to park somewhere safe and liquid.
So we see this massive capital flow out of emerging markets.
Out of emerging markets, out of the Eurozone, and straight into U.S. treasuries and the dollar itself.
Which has to be a total nightmare if you're an emerging market central banker this morning.
Oh, absolutely.
You're just watching your currency crater, which means your import costs just skyrocketed overnight.
Yeah.
But let's flip over to the equity side of things. The stock exchanges, the Ibovespa, the DAX, even the futures in New York, they're sliding.
They're sliding because Wall Street hates one thing more than bad news, and that is unmodelable risk.
Unmodelable risk.
Right. If I'm an analyst and I'm trying to project corporate earnings for Q3, and I don't know if the Strait of Hormuz is going to be open next week, I can't build a model.
You just can't do the math.
Exactly. And when you can't model, you sell.
It's the paralysis of uncertainty.
Yes.
But I did notice in the analysis we reviewed that there's a split opinion on the duration of this. Some strategists are taking more of a wait-and-see approach.
That is the crucial nuance here. The initial drop we're seeing, that's algorithmic panic. The computer's just reacting. But the smart money is pausing to ask, is this a surgical operation that lasts 48 hours? Or is this a regional conflagration that drags on for months?
Right.
If it's the former, we buy the dip. If it's the latter, we have to fundamentally re-rate the profitability of the entire S&P 500.
And the hinge point for that re-rating is usually the exact same culprit every time.
Oh, yeah.
The barrel in the room. Oil.
You really can't decouple this region from energy. Iran is a major OPEC producer, sure. But more importantly, it literally sits on the throat of the global energy supply.
The Strait of Hormuz.
Yes.
We talk about this choke point every single time tensions flare up. But I think people forget just how narrow that margin of error actually is.
Yeah.
We're talking about roughly 20% of the world's oil trade squeezing through a channel that is effectively a bowling alley for missiles right now.
A bowling alley is a good way to put it. And here's where the breaking news banners usually get it wrong.
How so?
They focus entirely on whether the strait is physically blocked. Like, are there sunken ships blocking the path?
Right, like a physical barricade.
Exactly. But the economic blockage happens way before a single ship sinks. It happens in the insurance offices in London.
Ah, the war risk premiums.
Right. If Lloyd's of London decides the risk is just too high, they either pull coverage entirely or they jack up the premiums to the point where it's completely uneconomical to sail.
So the water might be crystal clear.
But if the insurance paper isn't signed, those tankers simply do not move. You effectively close the strait without firing a single shot at a ship.
That perfectly explains the price action we're seeing. I mean, we were hovering around $70 a barrel, but Gabriel Malo's analysis suggests we're looking at an immediate jump to the $80 range, potentially even higher if the rhetoric heats up.
It's pure fear premium. But, and this is a really big but that Malik Zain from Suno Research highlights in the reports, we aren't seeing a vertical line straight to $150 yet.
Because the market is arguably oversupplied.
Exactly. The global economy has been a bit soft lately, so demand isn't at its absolute peak. Plus, the market has basically spent the last few years pricing in Iran's isolation anyway.
Right. Iran has been sanctioned to the hilt for years now.
Exactly. It's not at all like taking Russia offline back in 2022, where Europe was completely addicted to their gas. The world has largely already learned to live without official Iranian barrels.
So there is a buffer built in.
Yes.
But that buffer only holds if the conflict stays within Iran's borders. If a stray missile hits a Saudi terminal, or if the UAE gets dragged into this,
then all bets are off.
Yeah.
And that is the absolute nightmare scenario for central banks globally. They have spent the last 3 years brutally fighting inflation. If oil rips higher now, that's a massive supply-side shock.
And you can't fix a supply-side shock by just raising interest rates.
No, you can't. In fact, raising rates in that scenario just crushes the economy even further.
It puts them in a total stalemate. I mean, do you fight the inflation and kill economic growth, or do you support the growth and just let the inflation run hot?
It's a textbook policy trap. And while the central bankers are in their offices sweating over interest rates, the people who actually make physical things, the industrial directors, the logistics managers, they are facing a literal existential crisis right now.
This is exactly the pivot I want to make. We've looked at the blinking red screens on Wall Street. Let's zoom out and go down to the factory floor. In Germany or Brazil or Ohio, because for the last, 40 years?
At least.
We've been worshiping at the altar of just-in-time manufacturing.
Toyota's great gift to the world, and honestly, to be fair, it was a brilliant system for a peaceful world.
It makes sense on paper.
You strip out all the fat, you don't warehouse millions of dollars in spare parts, you have the steering wheel arrive at the factory exactly 4 hours before it gets bolted onto the car.
It's beautiful efficiency, it frees up all your cash flow, it makes the corporate balance sheet look super lean and mean.
But it relies on one massive, incredibly fragile assumption, that the world is predictable. That the shipping lanes are always open, that the borders are fluid, and that your suppliers are always online.
And today, looking at the news coming out of Tehran, that assumption just evaporated into thin air.
It's entirely gone. In a war zone, efficiency is just another word for vulnerability.
Right.
If you're running a just-in-time assembly line and that cargo boat with your microchips gets rerouted because of the Hormuz threat, your line stops. And when the line stops, you aren't saving money on warehousing anymore. You are bleeding millions of dollars by the hour.
So are we officially declaring the death of just-in-time?
We are declaring the massive shift to just-in-case.
Just in case. I mean, that just sounds like hoarding.
It is hoarding. But it's strategic hoarding. It's the sudden realization that redundancy isn't waste anymore, it's insurance. Factories across the globe are scrambling right now to triple their safety stocks.
Wow.
They'd rather have 6 months of inventory sitting there collecting dust than risk even a 1-week shutdown.
But think about the sheer capital implications of that shift. You're taking cash that could be used for, I don't know, R&D or paying dividends to shareholders.
Yeah.
And you're just tying it up in cardboard boxes sitting on a warehouse shelf.
That is the volatility tax we were talking about earlier. It makes the entire global system less efficient, significantly more expensive, and just heavier. But here is the fascinating part. How do these companies manage this sudden new complexity? Because it's not just guys with clipboards walking around a warehouse anymore.
Right, and this is where the source material on industrial automation gets really sci-fi.
It really does.
We're seeing a massive deployment of AI, but not for, writing marketing copy or sending emails.
Right. Forget ChatGPT writing a cute poem. We're talking about large language models and predictive AI literally acting as war room logistics generals.
Walk me through that. Say I'm a logistics manager. I wake up to the news of the bombing today. What is the AI doing that I simply can't do?
Okay, visualize this scenario. It's 6 a.m. You haven't even had your first cup of coffee yet. But your AI system has been relentlessly scanning unstructured data feeds all night long. News reports, Telegram channels, satellite weather data, everything.
Okay.
It recognizes the strike in Tehran the second it happens, and it instantly cross-references that event with your entire global supply chain.
So it already knows I have a crucial shipment of sensors currently sitting on a container ship near the Gulf of Oman.
It knows exactly where that ship is, and before you even log into your dashboard, the AI has run 1,000 probability simulations. It determines, say, there's an 80% chance that specific ship gets delayed or rerouted.
And then what?
So it automatically queries a global database of alternative suppliers in Vietnam and Mexico who have those exact same sensors in stock. It drafts the procurement contracts. It reserves emergency freight space on a cargo flight out of Ho Chi Minh City just to bridge the inventory gap.
It's literally solving the problem before the human manager even feels the panic.
Precisely. It's handling a level of global complexity that a human brain just cannot process fast enough. And it's doing it using what we call digital twins.
We've touched on digital twins on the show before, the general idea of having a complete virtual replica of your physical business. How is that specifically playing out right now, today, with this crisis?
Well, imagine a highly detailed video game simulation of your entire logistics network. You can literally toggle a switch in the software that says Strait of Hormuz closed.
And it just recalculates.
Instantly, the system visualizes the entire global impact. It shows all your ships automatically rerouting on the map.
And the most obvious alternative route is the Cape of Good Hope, right?
Yeah.
Going all the way down and around Africa.
Which is the classic detour, yes. But the AI calculates the exact financial cost of that instantly. It says to you, okay, going around Africa adds 14 days to our transit time and $200,000 in extra fuel costs.
Yes.
But maybe the AI suggests something completely radical. Maybe it looks at the current ice data up north and says, actually, the northern sea route above Russia is clear right now, and taking that path saves us 8 days compared to Africa.
So it's performing dynamic, real-time routing based on constantly changing variables.
Exactly. It's checking live fuel costs, political risk indexes, weather patterns, and real-time insurance premiums to find the absolute path of least resistance. And then it tells the CFO, hey, our freight costs just went up 40% for the next quarter. You need to adjust your consumer pricing right now.
That feedback loop to pricing is incredibly critical because usually companies only realize they're losing money on shipping 3 months later when the quarterly earnings report comes out.
Right. But in this kind of volatile environment, you absolutely cannot wait 3 months. You have to be anti-fragile.
Yeah.
You have to adjust your pricing the exact same day the missiles fly, because if you don't, you just get crushed by the margin erosion.
But this brings us right back to the cost of it all. I mean, all of this, the advanced AI systems, the extra inventory just sitting there for just in case, the longer shipping routes all the way around Africa, none of this is free.
No, it is incredibly expensive. We're basically trading cheap goods for available goods. We are trading long-term efficiency for short-term resilience.
So the deflationary pressure we all enjoyed for the last 2 decades, that golden era of cheap flat-screen TVs and fast fashion clothes that was largely subsidized by global peace and just-in-time logistics.
It was subsidized entirely by a high-trust, low-conflict world, and that world simply does not exist today.
Let's tie this all together for everyone listening. We started with the breaking news. Bombs in Tehran, immediate geopolitical chaos.
Which instantly triggered the financial reflex. Sell the risky stocks, buy U.S. dollars, the ultimate flight to safety.
Then we looked at the physical choke point, Hormuz. The sheer fear of a shipping blockade pushing oil towards that $80 mark and threatening to trigger a massive global inflation spike.
And finally, the structural long-term response. The massive pivot from just-in-time to just-in-case. Powered by predictive AI that costs a fortune to run, managing bloated inventory that costs a fortune to hold.
It really does feel like the end of an era. The efficiency era is over, and the resilience era has officially started.
I really think that is a permanent shift. Even if the shooting in the Middle East stops next week, I don't think these corporate boards go back to the old way of doing things.
The illusion is broken.
The trust is broken. You just can't unsee that level of vulnerability. Once you realize your entire multi-billion-dollar business can die overnight because of one political decision in a war room, you keep the safety stock. You keep paying for the AI subscriptions.
Which means the baseline cost of doing business in the modern world has permanently risen.
And that brings us to the final, somewhat uncomfortable question for the person listening to this deep dive right now.
The consumer.
Us. For 30 years, we demanded that everything be instant and cheap. We rewarded the companies that completely gutted their safety stocks just to shave a nickel off the retail price. We essentially created the incentive structure for this massive global fragility.
We demanded the very efficiency that is now failing us.
Precisely. Now, the world is forced to optimize for survival instead. That security, that just-in-case buffer, has a hefty price tag attached to it. And that price tag is going to be passed right down the line to you and me.
The peace dividend is gone.
And the volatility tax is here. The question isn't whether prices go up. The question is, are you willing to pay more just to ensure the product is actually sitting on the shelf when you go to buy it? Because the era of cheap and abundant was a luxury of peace. If the peace is gone, the cheap goods are gone too.
That is a very heavy thought to end on, but a completely necessary one. We aren't just passively watching a war on TV anymore. We're actively paying for that instability at the checkout counter.
It's the hidden cost of living in a fractured world.
We'll leave it there for today. Thank you for diving into the mechanics with us. It's obviously a very complex situation, and it's going to keep evolving by the hour.
Stay curious and definitely keep an eye on those supply chains.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.